we're ready to go. Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad you can make this webinar. Hopefully you'll find it informative and exciting. We will talk about, as Jessica mentioned, the digital experiencing monitoring platform that's one of the staples of the NetBeez family of product. And we'll talk about the various components and the usage that this platform allows you to entertain with your end user community. So we'll start by a quick introduction. Myself, Giovanni Polisca, I'm the business development, and also we have on the sideline Stefano Guidelli, who is our CEO and co-founder, and a product marketing manager emeritus. He is one of the more technical savvy person I know in this business. He'll be glad to answer all questions that come out of this webinar at the end, as mentioned before. So our mission is simply stated and simply put, to enable the work from anywhere enterprise. And what does that mean and what does it translate into? Well, if you think about, and I will dive more deeply into this conversation over the next couple of slides, the ability for people to perform their job, whether it be in the office, outside the office, or at home, really depends on a number of different components and tools that need to be present in order to assure the connectivity to cloud services, network, company headquarters is assured. And that connectivity needs to be monitored and understood from the IT support department to be able to quickly and efficiently troubleshoot any issues or problem occurring to maintain that productivity level, to maintain the connectivity, and really to be able to continue to perform your work wherever the location of your physical location is at that point. A little bit about NetBeez as a company, just a quick highlight. We provide active network intelligence to maximize performance and digital experience monitoring. What does that mean? What is a mouthful of marketing terms? But what it means is that we provide data, real live data, to network operations and network engineering and help desk people to be able to quickly understand and isolate issues, whether there might be connectivity to network issue or other types. And we built this product around the whole idea that we are really interested in understanding the remote user experience. Even before COVID, even before remote became the buzzword of the day, we were focused on providing data to remote locations such as satellite offices or people working from different environments and be able to understand the performance indicator for that particular user. What does that mean? Translates means that typical monitoring tools, network monitoring tools, are very efficient at providing visibility into device status, and providing up and down, outage, and all those wonderful and really important information, but they really don't address the issue of monitoring the performance of the network. And I think that's where we decided and we found that we had an opportunity to create a product that would provide that information. In the words of one of my customers, he said all the lights were green, everything was up and running, but my clients were complaining on not being able to access application because of speed or performance issues. So that's how we come in. We determine and we understand the performance metrics, how they're being used, what their user experience looks like, how they're accessing application, and what time delays exist in those access points. We have product that sits on remote and on-premise network. Most of our customer, I would say, although we service medium-sized businesses, a lot of Fortune 2000, and we have 10 of the Global 500 in our customer list using our solution today. So let's get to the sort of the meat of this conversation. Working from home is the new normal. You probably heard this in many places and on many occasions and from many different companies. The reality of what happened over the last 3 years with COVID-19 has changed the way we as company work, we as people interact with each other, and has really changed the working environment in general. The idea of a traditional enterprise, the way it used to be, is no longer reality. The reality is far different, and I will go through some of the statistics as well. But really, the challenge of the remote work environment can be summarized in a couple of quick bullet points. One is the typical user environment at home does not have the great tools that exist in an enterprise network. The hardware that is being used in the home is a consumer-grade hardware. It does not provide the same level of service that network hardware in an enterprise provides. The people that are using the equipment at home are also not very technical in most cases. So if there's a problem, it's very difficult to run a test to isolate the issue without really understanding where the problem could materialize or where the problem is. And to ask a user who is perhaps an accountant, perhaps a salesperson, to run some tests to determine where the problem is, well, good luck with that. That's not likely to happen. So I think what's needed is a new approach to really understanding how to isolate issues, especially at the scale that a lot of these enterprises are working today. For example, if you have 50 people at home, it's not so bad. But if you have 5,000 people working remotely, or 3,000, or whatever the number is, like we see some of our customers, being able to quickly understand where the problem is, how to relate to it and troubleshoot it becomes a challenge for most IT departments. And also a big significant cost introduction and escalation in ticket generation, as well as support for those tickets. And the resources are still the same. It's not like we hire suddenly a bunch of new network engineers to support these users. So the role of the help desk is becoming more critical in at least providing the very first level of support, even for network issues. So having a tool that provides information necessary to address the issues and quickly solve some of perhaps very minor problems is very critical and important for some of these teams to be able to perform their functions. So a new monitoring solution that's built specifically around this particular use case is required. Traditional tools don't provide the information or the data necessary to be able to address these issues. And again, this is something that is likely, not likely, it's not going away. Actually, it will continue to grow and evolve, which leads me to the next point. So if you think about what has changed with this particular situation in a working from home environment, it really has accelerated the digitalization of the workplace. The traditional work environment in the office is changed, and working from home requires new tools that you are using, including video conferencing software, access to the cloud where the application and services are located, Wi-Fi, LAN connectivity, support to ISP. So it has really taken a role that was fairly simple and made it much more complex for the user environment to be able to perform their job. More efficient in the sense that all these applications are very useful and allow the person working remotely to continue their productivity and their work. But they also introduce a whole series of issues in that IT departments and network operation teams have to deal with. So as far as even more recently as this summer, there was a couple of studies done by Capgemini and EMA, specifically around the remote work environment. And although there's been some pushback in some large enterprises, even those enterprises have actually come back to understand that people have gotten used to working remotely with all the both advantages and disadvantages, but mostly advantages of being able to work from home, avoiding traffic, better quality of life, family life, and still maintain high level of productivity. Actually, most case studies have shown that productivity level is going up with people working remotely. So 75% of enterprises are adopting this sort of hybrid model, where you're working sometime in the office and sometimes at home. Out of those, about 35% actually adopted a completely remote work environment, and 50% have this sort of mixed hybrid approach of working from home with a couple of days in the office. This has certainly changed the social structure of how we work, and has introduced opportunity as well as problems need to be addressed and resolved, which for IT department is really the issue, because working from home is basically extending their network from what used to be a traditional topology. Maybe they had a remote office someplace, but now suddenly they have 2,000 to 3,000 remote offices. Every user is a remote office. How do you address those issues? How do I help them solve the problem? And so they're having to look for new solutions. And the survey says that about 90+% of those IT department network centers are actually looking to adopt new monitoring tools to provide the data necessary to be able to address the issues that keep coming up in these environments. So what do we provide? So NetBeez has an endpoint solution that is a software agent to reside on either a laptop, desktop, either an iOS or a Windows environment, that provides the necessary data for the network data, Wi-Fi and LAN metrics, interface status, like VPN, client data, and displays all that on a dashboard that is typically hosted either in the cloud or on-prem by the customer. And from that dashboard, you're able to manage as many users as you possibly have deployed in this particular environment. This is something that it's easy to configure. It's fairly simplistic in terms of deployment. It doesn't take very long to deploy this type of software. And the information that is provided is really a number of different data specifically to the network, specific to ISP and other components of the network that really help you understand where a problem could come from, where it arises, and how to isolate it. So that basically, in order to really understand and really complement the digital experience monitor solution, you need 5 pillars, what we call 5 pillars of the monitoring world. Endpoint performance metric, and I'll go through this in a few slides, really understand the desktop, laptop environment that you're working on, Wi-Fi metrics for those people that are connected to Wi-Fi, gateway testing, ISP tagging with network speed, and VPN testing. These are the 5 major sort of components of the work from home environment, and we must monitor to be able to understand and isolate the problems and effectively provide a solution. So endpoint performance metrics are really around the your desktop, laptop that you're using at home. And it's around understanding CPU utilization, RAM utilization, and hard disk utilization. And why is that important? Well, one of the sort of staple of trying to isolate a problem is eliminating problems that you possibly simple problems in the beginning that could materialize a larger problem later. So being able to eliminate the CPU/desktop issue then can move to the network. Sometimes computer issues, some processes that run and use a lot of the CPU cycles, or running out of memory or disk drive can create connectivity issues or performance issue in access and application. So by removing that component from the overall troubleshooting, you're now able to isolate and start digging into the actual problem itself. So this is really important to understand and be able to have this information available when you're trying to troubleshoot a problem with the user. Another large component, and many people use Wi-Fi at home, and as you probably know and aware, Wi-Fi is shared. If you're working from home, maybe your kid is watching a movie or maybe they're playing a video game. So it's really important to understand connectivity issue through Wi-Fi. And sometimes companies dictate that you don't use Wi-Fi. So being able to understand when somebody's connected or not connected to Wi-Fi is also critically important. The Wi-Fi metrics that we provide are because Windows and Mac provide different type of information, we aggregate that information, provide complete data, and includes connect and disconnect, the SSID, channel frequency, and many more parameters that can be listed. And then also they can perform SSID scan to identify overlapping SSID and proximity or remote users, so see how someone impact the other and vice versa. So this is really critical component of usage at home. ISP tagging and network speed, and here actually I'm going to ask Stefano to step in and give us a little bit of a technical description on this particular subject. Stefano, you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Giovanni, and hi, everyone. Internet service provider issues is a very common cause of end user experience issues. Nevertheless, the internet now is our remote users' wide area network. So that falls under, for most of companies, the centralized IT responsibility to understand if download on upload speed is impacting the end user experience. So it was very important for us to provide those metrics and download and upload information to the dashboard and tag along with the autonomous system number and the ISP name. So we provide that support on the NetBeez dashboard. The administrator can identify users that have suboptimal download and upload speed, which can cause performance degradation issues. There is a clear correlation. And also group users based on suboptimal performance issues, identifying also the internet service providers that oftentimes cause degradation. So that's a very, very useful feature that we have always improved in collaboration with our customers. And we also see even more innovation in the future around the ISP fault isolation and internet service provider reporting. So what you see here in this slide is, for example, a very few small group of remote users and how their download and upload speed is scattered or distributed along these two metrics. Next slide. I can cover also that, Giovanni, if you want.
Yeah, thanks.
VPN is definitely necessary for many enterprise customers that need to access enterprise application that might be hosted on-prem or in the cloud, but nevertheless, privacy must be granted and assured. So whether clients have a full tunnel or split tunnel, a VPN test allows the centralized IT to understand how good or bad is the end user experience and the network performance across the VPN tunnel. So that was actually support for VPN that was from the first day that we launched NetBeez remote worker agent at the end of 2020. But recently in the previous release 10.0, we added, improved the monitoring logic for VPN so that if the user disconnects the VPN client for different reasons, tests running across the VPN will not fail, but will simply be paused, because in that case would be a false positive. The benefit is that we'll still, of course, detect problem should the VPN client be up and running, so the VPN cannot pass traffic or even authenticate, right? But it's a very big improvement for VPN users to understand, to remove false positive from the reporting. So yeah, all Windows and macOS remote work region have that support, so we can have a better understanding of VPN performance and how that impacts the end user experience.
All right. Thank you, Stefano. And I think with that, we'll go to the question and answer session, and feel free to pose some questions. Let me see if I can access the chat here. Okay, so the session is open for questions. Feel free to challenge us with some questions.
I'm not seeing any questions at this time, but if anyone thinks of a question that they didn't ask at the moment, feel free to use intercom on our website to ask anything that you think of after this webinar.